Good day, friends. Welcome back to my channel. What's the most important part of a quiche recipe? In my opinion, it's not the crust. While the crust should be good, it's the eggy, creamy custard filling that really makes a great quiche. My husband and I were on a road trip last summer and we stopped at this coffee stand and they had this great roasted corn quiche that I thought was amazing. And when I got home, I decided I need to replicate that recipe. So this is my recipe for the roasted corn quiche with green chili. I'm going to start by rolling out my dough, and I did make my own pie dough, but you can certainly purchase a pie dough. And I'm not going to share a recipe for a pie dough. There's lots out there on YouTube. You can choose whichever one you prefer. So I'm going to quickly run through just the rolling out of the dough, and then we'll get started on the filling. And I, by no means, am a pie dough expert. I have a hard time rolling it out to be a circle. So my goal here is just to roll it out to a thickness that is going to work well in the quiche, and also to ensure that the pie dough is going to fit in the springform pan, which I'm showing there. And I'm checking, and it will fit. And the thing about using a springform pan, I find that it's just easier to cut the quiche when you use a springform pan. And I'm going to set the dough in the pan, and I'm going to initially just let it hang over. I am going to trim some of the dough off of the edges, but I'm not going to trim all of it, because if I trim all of it, then it may actually shrink down well below the rim of the springform pan. So I'm just working to get the dough set into the pan. I want to get as much coverage as possible around the sides. So getting that pressed in there. And once that is pressed in, I'm going to trim off some of the edge. Now I'm not going to fully trim off all of the edge because I'm going to blind bake this in a 400-degree oven for 10 minutes. And there will be some shrinkage. So I want to leave a little bit on the edge until I get the filling put in there. So now I'm going to get it ready to blind bake, and I'm going to use some chickpeas, and I'm just using a fork to put some holes in the bottom of the crust so that it can vent. And then I'm going to use a piece of parchment paper that I crumble up, and I'm going to put the chickpeas in there and then place it in the oven. Now in the oven it goes. Now I'm going to get started on the eggy mixture. And again, this is one of the most important parts of the recipe in my opinion. And I'm going to start off by adding 8 eggs into my measuring cup here. And this is a liquid measuring cup that is 4 cups. And you're going to see that I'm going to press my limits and really fill it to the top. So we're getting the last of the eggs in there, and once they're in there, I'm going to start just mixing them up. And once the eggs are mixed, I'm going to add some half and half, and I'm going to use the full container of the half and half. And this is the beginning of building that eggy custardy filling. So I'm going to mix the half and half into the eggs. And then the next important ingredient that we are going to add is 1/2 cup of sour cream. This makes a big difference, so don't leave it out. And then I'm going to start mixing that in. Once that's mixed in, I will add 6 tablespoons of butter. And the butter's been melted and cooled. Mixing that in. Once that is mixed in, then the next secret ingredient is revealed. And what is that? That is Jiffy corn mix. Yes, corn muffin mix. I'm going to add 1/2 cup of Jiffy corn mix, and this will help the quiche retain its volume. And you'll see at the end what that looks like. So I'm going to get that mixed in, and you can see I am right at the rim almost of this measuring cup. But there's one more thing to go before we're done, and that is adding the roasted green chilies. Can't leave that out. So I'm putting those in, and then I'm going to do a final mix before I get ready to pour it in to the springform pan. Now we're ready to get the mixture into the springform pan. You'll see that the crust has baked up really nicely. I'm going to start by putting a layer of cheese on the base, and I'm just doing about 3/4 of a cup of cheese. And then on top of that, you'll see the fire roasted corn. I just buy that out of the freezer section at the grocery store. That's the next layer that goes in. And then we'll be pouring in the mixture. And it's a lot of quiche mixture, but it's going to make for a great quiche. Just getting that all in there. And once that's all in there, I'm going to top it with a little bit more cheese. And then you'll want to bake the quiche in a 400-degree oven for at least 75 minutes or until the custard filling is just set. You do not want to overbake it. This is what it looks like coming out of the oven, and it looks great. I did use a piece of foil for the first hour of baking to ensure that the crust and the top of the quiche didn't get too brown. And now I'm going to trim off the rest of the crust. I'm going to need to remove the side portion of the springform pan. So I'm just working on getting to crack some of that off, and it comes off pretty easily. You could certainly cut this earlier in the process before you actually bake it, which will make it a little bit easier. So now I'm just going to pop the side of the springform pan and get ready to remove it. And this is the big reveal. Taking off the side rim to see what that crust looks like. And it looks amazing. And the volume of the quiche is also amazing. This quiche is not going to lose its volume. Now you do want to let the quiche cool for at least 30 minutes before you cut into it. And you'll see when I do cut into it, it's still very hot, even at 30 minutes. So here it is, and I'm going to just take a serrated knife to cut into it. And I'm going to cut a big piece. And then I like to put my quiche just on a bed of lettuce with some tomatoes. It really tastes great. So let's pull that slice out and you'll see the volume of the quiche. That's the kind of quiche I love. It looks great. Now go make yourself some great roasted green chili quiche.